Hello, Rockville Art League members. Thank you for zooming in this evening. We have a wonderful presentation planned with Elli Milan, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But I have a couple of quick announcements before we start with the presentation. First of all, on display in the Glenview Mansion Art Gallery is a show called The Colorists. And the colorists are 6 RAL artists who applied with Rockville for space in the gallery and were granted that space. Their show is up until April 5th. And as the name would imply, The Colorists, it is a vibrant and beautiful show. So if you have a chance to get over, please do. You'll be glad you did. Next item is our juried members' spring show is coming up. Work is being accepted now through April 2nd. All members are allowed 2 pieces as long as those pieces haven't already been accepted in a previous RAL juried show. There's no specific theme, it's just your best work. The notification, so the deadline is April 2nd. By April 16th, we will have notified the artists whose work was accepted. Our 2 juried shows each year are very popular and competitive and beautiful. So I hope you'll add your work to that. Last thing before we get going, if you have anything for our next newsletter, the deadline is March 15th to get your information to our newsletter editor, Susan Donnell. And now, the star of our show, Elli Milan, and I'm going to let one of her students and the person that found Elli for us, Sarah Sarabi, introduce her.
Hello,
Sarah?
everyone. Hello, everyone. This evening, we are welcoming professional artist Elli Milan. For the full version of her bio, please refer to the latest issue of our newsletter. As many artists in her league, Elli is skilled and talented and dedicated to making the best art. But what distinguishes her is her willingness, I should say, her eagerness to ensure that other artists succeed as well. By sharing what she knows, by making us aware of potential mistakes, by inspiring and encouraging and uplifting the spirit of anyone at the onset of their artistic career and beyond. And one of her missions in life could be called No Artist Left Behind. Mm-hmm. Upon meeting her, what becomes even more obvious is her generosity, her kindness, her passion for art, and her passion for building a community of artists without borders. To help achieve her goals, Elli has developed several tools. She has created an art school, the Milan Art Institute. She has crafted an extensive online art mastery program that's followed by hundreds of students of all levels all over the world. And recently, she has opened her own beautiful art gallery in Sarasota, Florida, where she will help launch the careers of the graduates of her mastery program. So Elli is relentless, not only in making fantastic paintings, but in offering tons of free workshops, interviews, inspirational blogs, using YouTube and social media. So let's learn from Elli how to find our voice in art and perhaps in life. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. That was very, very sweet. I really am grateful to be here with you guys tonight. And this is pretty casual. So I do have a presentation with some visuals to kind of help explain or show pictures about what I'm talking about. So I'll pull that up in just a second. And kind of throughout it, you'll get to know me a little bit. And I'll show some examples of my own work and So you'll kind of hear a little bit about me as I talk about how I found my voice and as an artist. And feel free to ask questions. You can either speak them out and unmute yourself, or you can. I think there's a chat here. Yeah, you can click on the chat and write it, and I'll try to pay attention, or somebody can alert me or tell me in case I space it out. But we can also do a Q&A at the end. So whatever, it's pretty casual. So I am going to share my screen here. And okay, I got it pulled up so you guys can see this, right?
Yes.
I got to get rid of this thing though. Can you see my little Zoom window?
I see how to find your voice as an artist, and there's a
Oh, okay.
unicorn.
Only I can see the Zoom window. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. So, there we go. Okay, so finding your voice as an artist. I think the first thing to talk about is why would you want to find your voice? And what is that? And what's the big deal? And why can't you just paint whatever you feel like whatever you want to paint? And I think you can. I think that is definitely what a lot of people do. And I've done that many times in my life. And when you just sort of take a class and then try this style and then try that style and kind of jump around a bit, you always have to kind of keep yourself motivated. You have to kind of keep yourself inspired all the time. And sometimes it's harder to keep that inspiration. And so I have found that one of the best things about finding your voice is, besides how wonderful it feels and how full of purpose it feels, it also keeps you inspired. Your ideas just keep coming, and it's sort of like a river, and you sort of follow that creative thread, and one idea leads to another idea, and you never seem to run out of inspiration or ideas. So I think that the goal for every artist would be to sort of be able to find your voice and follow it, because our voice evolves over time. It doesn't jump around. It sort of you find it, and then it evolves. Also, learning what your voice is as an artist is really a journey of self-discovery. And I've found that people at different points in their life go through cycles of self-discovery and enjoying that process. And then there's other times in our life where we don't bother with it, and we sort of spend our efforts somewhere else. So I think that when you do spend time really learning about yourself, especially as an artist, and why do you paint what you paint, and what motivates you and inspires you, and why does it inspire you? It's really fascinating, and it's very rewarding. It's a very rich experience. So I think one of the first important things is, really wanting to get to know yourself on a very deep level. And a lot of people have gone through all kinds of different experiences, whether they're spiritual or different classes, different career options that have stretched you and forced you, or inspired you for personal growth. And that's always been, a way to kind of get to know yourself. But I think as an artist, one reason why I think we're just so blessed and fortunate to be artists is it really is such an incredible opportunity to know yourself very deeply. And it's not for the purpose of navel gazing or just, thinking about yourself all the time. It's for the service of others. It's so that your art actually serves culture, serves other people, the people that enjoy your art. So how do we want to get to know ourselves? I think in the journey of finding your voice, you really get to know yourself psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually. A lot of times it deals with different memories or experiences you've had and which ones were most impactful to your life. What were the turning points in your life? When you get triggered emotionally, why? What is it that triggers you? Who triggers you? And most of the time it's our spouse, right? Or the people we spend the most time with, wind up triggering us. Sometimes it's our ethnicity or our culture, where we're from, how we were raised in a particular culture. A lot of times I found in art, as artists, what we are dealing a lot with is the pain that we've endured in our life. And we've all endured pain. Everybody has gone through painful moments, disappointments, discouragements, sometimes trauma, and then the process of healing or overcoming from that. And a lot of times that is woven into our artwork. In the mastery program, we actually teach a whole section on how to identify your deepest pain and then flip it, because it really becomes your superpower. The overcoming of that pain is your superpower. So an example of that is for myself, what I had struggled with the most was self-worth, knowing that I had value, that I had purpose, that there was a reason I was put here. And because I felt worthless, I felt like I had no value. And that was something I didn't even identify until, sometime in my 20s. And I kind of spent my 20s, recognizing or realizing that I had that pain. And then I spent my 30s sort of getting over it or healing from it and kind of moving a bit past it. And then in my 40s is when I realized, wow, this is my gift to the world, is to help other people realize they have value, they have worth, they have significance. They're here for a reason. There's a destiny that they have, and they are empowered to step into their destiny and live out their purpose. So what was my deepest pain actually became my superpower and my calling in life. So I think that's a big one. If you can kind of identify that. Family relationships are another deep part that will play into our voice, our core beliefs. What do we believe on a foundational level about just about anything? And then your edge. So we're going to talk about some of these things throughout. And I think it's important to make time to discover your voice, to make it a priority, and to be intentional about it. That's what I really love about the mastery program, our one-year program that we teach in our school for artists, because it gives you all these tools and prompts and ways, that you can, that help you discover your voice. All of our students go through that, together, and they learn a lot about themselves and how that actually applies to their art and their aesthetic. So, making time for that is not selfish. It's not narcissistic, because the outcome of it is that it's for the purpose of serving others. If I didn't learn about myself and my pain, what caused my pain, and got over that pain and realized that was my superpower, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. I wouldn't even have this school. So I'm really grateful that I did, go through that process, because it's helped me, really step into my purpose. So, so I already talked about that. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I found my voice. So this is a painting I've done fairly recently, and where about my work is today. But it wasn't always that way. So this piece on the left was a piece I did when I was in college. I went to Savannah College of Art and Design, and then I transferred to the University of Georgia, and that's where I graduated from. On the right, you'll see a picture of a restaurant, which is called The Last Resort. It's in Athens, Georgia, where I went to school. And that is where I got my big break, I guess. I had a art show in there, and a lady from Atlanta was eating lunch there, and she saw my art, and she called me up and asked if I wanted to interview for a job as an artist. And I thought, a job as an artist? Because in college, they told me, just do art for art's sake. You can't make any money, starving artist. There's no point. And, my parents were paying them all this money to tell me I wasn't going to be successful. And so I was, completely confused, like, how am I getting a job as an artist? Like, I get paid a salary to be an artist. So I went to the interview, and I didn't even know, but it was for the decorative market. And I had never heard of that before. They didn't tell us about the decorative market in college. So basically I worked in a studio in Atlanta, and I painted every single day from 8 in the morning till 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I pumped out 8 paintings every single week for this company, and they would sell them in the decor market for decorations. And I thought, well, this is better than waiting tables. It's better than working at a bank. It's all my jobs. I made sandwiches. I delivered pizzas. I mean, I did all those kinds of jobs. And I thought, this is better. It's like I'm getting paid to go to school. I'm still painting. Okay, yeah, I'm painting these fluffy paintings for the decor market, but at least I'm still painting. So I did that. This is kind of some of the work that I had done. My husband also is an artist. So he sort of followed in my footsteps, and he got a job at another company in Atlanta. So we both worked at art companies in Atlanta and commuted there from Athens. So together, because a lot of times we collaborated on these paintings. So together with my husband, John, we sold over 10,000 paintings in that decorative art from 1996 to 2009, because we just went into very, very high production. Now, there's no way in this process I had found my voice. I was just, partly looking at what was out there, looking at what other people were decorating in their houses. The internet wasn't so big in the beginning of my career. And so I didn't have that as a resource, but I would look in magazines like, Southern Home and Garden and things like that, or Architectural Digest. And anytime I saw there was art on the wall, I would look and try to examine it and do something similar. Or I imagined rooms. I would see these nicely decorated rooms, and I would imagine what kind of art would go in there. What colors are they decorating in? So everything was very decor centric. And I didn't feel like I was expressing myself or sharing anything that I had. It was just making pretty pictures that I was selling. And then something very significant happened in 2009. So we had this opportunity to paint, to have a solo show in a gallery in Philadelphia. The gallery is called Whitestone Gallery. And the lady asked us, okay, so tell me the name of your show. I need the titles of all your pieces, what inspired them, a blurb about each piece of what it's about, and we need all that written up before you send the work. And I thought, oh my gosh, she's gonna find out what a phony I am. I'm just making couch art. I mean, I'm not a real artist. They don't have meanings. They're just abstracts. And so we were just painting, kind of like how these are abstracted figures. We were painting abstract cities and abstract florals and just non-objective abstracts. And I didn't think they had any meaning to them. So I thought, okay, I have 2 choices. I either have to come clean and tell this lady I'm just, a big fat liar and a phony, and, I got nothing, or I have to just lie and make something up. I'm just going to invent something. I'll pretend this art is about something, and I'll just make something up. But that didn't feel right. It just felt like, kind of icky to do that. So I really didn't know what to do. And I had this huge painting in front of me, this big abstract, and it was like a 48 by 48. And I was looking at it and thinking, okay, I just need a title. And so I just kind of threw up a little prayer, like, I just need a title. And right away, the word traffic came to my mind. I just popped in traffic. And I looked close at this abstract and I could see all these little bubbles, kind of like these little things here were floating up, and then other things were floating down. And I could see John had drawn these little like helicopter doodles in the sky, and little guys were coming down from, you know, on these ladders. And I thought, oh my gosh, it just all of a sudden I understood what it was about. And the painting was about the traffic between heaven and earth. And all of a sudden, all 33 paintings that we had in the show started to kind of unravel and reveal themselves to me. And I saw the whole time that they did have meaning and what the whole show was about. So we called the show Heaven's Exchange. Titles were, you know, we came up with titles for each piece. We knew what inspired the work. It didn't happen before we made it. We found out after we made it, you know, what was really behind the work. And that was the first time I really clued in that we really had a voice, and our artwork was speaking, our artwork was saying something. And it wasn't just you know, random pretty pictures. Even if it was unintentional, there was, whether it's the muse, a divine hand, I don't know, there was something that was painting through us. There was messages still being created, whether we were conscious of it or not. So it was a huge turning point. And we started then moving more in the collectible market and working with galleries and being more intentional about our voice and what we were creating. So it was a collaborative voice. We called it Two Hearts, One Canvas, because John and I would paint on the same piece together. And this is just more examples of some of the work that we produced together. Here's another one. So this is just more examples of our work we created together and sold in galleries. And then after, I don't know, maybe 12 years of this, of collaborating, we, this was about 2018, I would say, so pretty recently. We really wanted to find our own voice. I didn't know what Elli by herself was all about. I mean, I knew what John and Elli were about, but I didn't know what I was about. And I was pretty far along in my career. I'd already sold a ton of work, and we had branded ourselves for all these years as collaborative artists, a husband and wife team, Two Hearts, One Canvas. But I had this aching that I wanted to find out what my voice was. So this is how I found my individual voice. So this painting here on the right of the king is a painting I did. The painting on the left is a painting that John did. So John also started that journey of finding his voice. So after 25 years of being a professional artist, John, my husband, joined the mastery program. He was one of my students. Isn't that crazy? And so I was teaching the mastery program with artists in person, not online. And so John went through this process of finding his voice. And while he was finding his voice, I thought, you know, I'm going to do this right along with everybody. And I'm going to go through all the exercises, and I'm going to find my voice as well while I was teaching it. Because I knew the process of it, and I had this long sort of journey through it, but I had only really developed it as a collaboration, not just by myself. So I really wanted to do that. So I spent that year really working towards that. And I, you know, this is some of the work that I was doing. And you can kind of see how it was similar to the work I was doing in college. There's some stylistic things, color choices, you know, the dark and the light, the figures with the skin, you know, there's some similarity. And then this painting happened. So this is how I sort of launched into the more magical, mystical things, or fantasy-like things, instead of just, you know, the work that you just saw. So this painting, have you guys ever just, you know, painted and you're crying, like you're so frustrated with your painting, you hate it so bad, you actually cry? Sarah, has that ever happened to you?
The time.
Okay, it's like we're adults, right?
I cry all the time.
Yeah, what's up with that? I mean, we're adults. So I did this painting, and this painting on the left here, or it's the same painting, but in the stage on the left, I hated it so badly. It was so ugly. I mean, it is ugly. Let's look at it. It's pretty ugly. But I was so frustrated. I wanted to shred it. I was getting angry, and I was crying. And for a week, I couldn't talk to anybody. And my family was like, walking on eggshells around me because I was just so cranky because I hated this painting so bad. And I thought, this is irrational. This is, I need to get in touch with this. Why am I so angry about this? What is the deal here? And I just thought, it's so dumb. And there's this girl and a goose, and like, what's the point? But I couldn't figure out why it was making me so angry. So I thought, I just have to suck it up. I have to finish this painting, even if I hate it. No matter what happens, I can throw it away later, but I have to finish it. I can't give up, because I knew something deep was happening because I was so emotionally triggered by it. So I finished it, and this is the painting I did after it. And after that painting and the trauma of that painting, I thought, okay, I'm just going to do an abstract and just throw a bunch of ink down and just make a mess. And I'm just going to work intuitively and just see what the painting wants to be, because I was kind of lost at this point in my process. So this painting in the top left is what I came up with. And I swear I could see a Pegasus in there. And but I was like, that is so dumb and goofy. Like, who's gonna want to buy a Pegasus? And I never liked fantasy art. I never liked that genre or that type of imagery. It seemed hokey to me, cheesy. It was, beneath me to paint. And, but I couldn't help but see this Pegasus. So I kind of sketched it in a little bit, and so it evolved, and this is the painting I made. And by the time I finished making this painting, everything flooded back to me. And I remembered all these things from my childhood. And I remembered sitting in my dad's lap, and he's Greek, and he would read to me and tell me stories about Greek mythology. And he would tell me stories about Pegasus. And I would imagine myself riding on the back of Pegasus, because I loved horses as a little girl, and I had a horse. And I would be flying in the sky and touching the stars. And I knew that I was Greek. And whenever he would tell me about the Greek mythology, it was like they were my people. And I knew I came from them in my mind as a little girl. And so all of these heroes, all of these gods and goddesses, and this world, this fantasy world, was so real to me. And because I was Greek, I thought I'm like these people. And I started to feel I was magical, or there was something special about me. So all these things came back to me. And I think because of unforgiveness towards my dad, because, he's a Greek man, and I don't know, you can fill in the blanks. He's difficult. And so because of this, sort of unforgiveness, I think I had all of that kind of locked up, or I wasn't embracing it. And that's why it triggered me, and it made me so emotional. And now it's like, I've embraced that. I've embraced that part of me. And now I really enjoy the things that I'm painting that are like that. So I think a big key to really finding your voice is when things do trigger you, or you get very emotional about something, it's a piece of the puzzle, and you really have to pay attention to it. So this is a sort of a formula here of what is your voice. And I think this is a really good formula to kind of follow. And our job is to sort of work out what is our aesthetic, and what is our taste, and what is our process. And when you combine all those two, that becomes your style, that becomes your voice. So aesthetic plus taste plus process, your artistic process equals your voice. So personal aesthetic, this is a really good exercise you can do, is you can just go on Pinterest and find all the things. You can just make a board called personal aesthetic, and this isn't things that you like with your left brain. Like, I like hamburgers. Hamburgers taste good. I'll put a bunch of pictures of hamburgers on my wall. Like, you don't want to do that. You want to find things that are visual. Like, I don't like the rain. I actually hate the rain. I always live in sunny places because I don't like the rain. But I think this is beautiful. This wet street with the light on it. That's beautiful to me. And we all find beauty in something different. You know, beauty is so unique. It's like a thumbprint. We have our own individual personal aesthetic, and it's inside of us already. It's been there for years and years and years. And it's even been there maybe since we were, you know, children. It just ages with us, and it evolves, and it grows up with us. So identifying your aesthetic, your personal aesthetic, I think is a real key. And, you know, you can kind of see how my personal aesthetic winds up looking like my artwork, right? Because the pictures I showed before here are what I find beautiful. And you can see how that translates, you know, into my work. So your aesthetic is forms, what you like in forms. Some of us like rigid geometrical forms. Some of us like organic sort of, you know, modular forms. So form and how we perceive form and what we love about form is going to inform what our aesthetic is. Our color choices. I know my daughter, Dimitra, who's an artist, an amazing artist, she loves all these sort of pastels and soft colors and very soft transitions. And I like bold sort of jewel tones. We're very different when it comes to color. So your color profile is unique to you, and that's a part of your aesthetic. You know, sort of the rhythm of how things are arranged. I like this sort of random order to things, kind of like this this landscape here. There's some order to it, there's some structure to it, but it is a little bit random. So lines, how we feel about texture, light, contrast. Do you like bold, high contrast, or kind of soft? Composition is a big part of aesthetic. There's certain compositions that we're really drawn to, and there's other compositions we just don't like. Pattern. So all of these visuals and elements of art are really going to be a foundation to our aesthetic. Okay, so after aesthetic, we said aesthetic plus taste. So this is something most people don't want to hear. This is where I lose friends. So I'm just going to warn you, I'm going to lose some friends right now, but we all have bad taste. Okay, so I have bad taste, you have bad taste. All of you who think you have good taste, you actually have bad taste. So you want to evolve your taste, okay? So no matter where you are in taste, you want it to be better. And how you get it better is you feast your eyes on more things. You expose yourself to more things to elevate your taste. So I'm always trying to elevate my taste. I'm always telling myself, Elli, if you just had better taste, your art would be better. So I want to always elevate my taste and expose myself to new things, to new designs, to educate myself in design so that I can elevate my taste. If we go to the same places all the time, eat at the same restaurants, shop in the same stores, we always look at the same things, we sort of live inside of our own aquarium. But as soon as we travel and we go somewhere different and we see something new, our taste is elevated because we're seeing something different. So there's lots of ways you can educate your eye. So this is just kind of an example of a very similar aesthetic, right? This aesthetic, it's like the colors are very similar. It kind of has this like quirky, funky, but eclectic kind of look, you know, yellow velvet, right? But one is sort of in a higher taste than the other. Not to say that, you know, this is the best taste in the universe, but there's levels of taste, and we have to kind of educate our eye to be able to recognize and see how we can elevate our taste. So this is like another example of something really similar, and one is kind of in like a higher taste than the other. And some people can't recognize it yet, and you have to educate your eye to be able to see it. So the good thing about the age we live in is we have the internet. And so you can look at really high-end things and things of really high design and see them and see what's out there. You can travel on the internet. So, you know, I think it's also good to experience things firsthand, you know, go to art shows, go to museums, go to different boutiques and different places. So I think working on your taste is a good way to develop your voice. Okay, so the next part, your process. So that is the materials you choose to work in, the order that you want to use them, how you collect your sources, you gather your sources, you create your sources, your process for getting inspiration, the way you lay down paint, right? So some of us are, you know, when we walk into a room, everybody knows it. You know, we're kind of loud, we kind of crash in there. You know, we're a little bit on the boisterous side. We're very direct. Some of us kind of come into a room a little bit quieter. You don't notice it first. We wait before we speak. We're a little more quiet about things. Well, when you lay down paint, imagine those two people. The first person is just going to do it, just slash through a painting and be a little bit violent about it. Whereas, you know, the other person is going to kind of softly blend things around and, you know, take their time. And so the way that we approach our materials, we deal with the materials, we lay down paint, it's going to be different for every single person. I don't think there's any two people that work exactly the same. And it's down to the nuances of how you hold your brush, how much you load up your paint on the brush, how you deliver the brush. Some people like bristle brushes. I hate bristle brushes. I don't even own any. I don't think I own a single bristle brush. I can't stand them. But other people love bristle brushes, right? So everybody has a preference and a leaning and the way they like to use their materials and lay it down. And we all struggle in the creative process somewhere differently. Everybody struggles. There's not one of us who doesn't struggle at all. So, you know, like I have no problem starting paintings. I have no problem finishing paintings, but somewhere in the middle, in that ugly stage, that's where I struggle. Some people struggle, like my daughter struggles to start paintings. She has to force herself to start a painting because she's always worried maybe the idea isn't good enough. So some people struggle to finish paintings and they have a whole studio full of, you know, partly finished art. Okay, so that's sort of what makes up our voice. But then you also have themes, right? There's themes that we paint in. There's themes that we create in. There's imagery. Some people, you know, just love landscape art and a certain kind of tree and mountains that look a certain way and the way the light is. Other people just really love figurative work. Other people just like abstracts. So the themes in which we paint, I think, come out of our voice and from our aesthetic a lot of times. And so I think our archetypes, our patterns of behavior really influence this. And I saw this, like John and I painted a lot of horses, and when John sort of ran the show, he would choose a horse to paint that was like grazing, eating, relaxing, swishy tail, heads down in the grass, casual, relaxed, okay? And whenever I chose to paint a horse, it was jumping, bucking, rearing, in some kind of action. It was in action. And so that really speaks to our archetypes and who we are and what our patterns of behavior really are. And so a lot of times the subject matter that you choose, not a lot of times, most of the time, the subject matter you choose is going to follow a lot of that. And the more you kind of tap into that, the more exciting it becomes. Our memories, our experiences, our ethnicity influence our themes. So this is a lot of the stuff from the beginning. Different relationships we've had, stories, parables we grew up with, Sometimes your family birth order, you know, if you're firstborn or you're the third child or fourth child, is going to influence. I mentored a student who I noticed every time she painted, she had 3 animals and 2 were together and one was kind of being goofy. And so like she had 3 ducks and 2 ducks are really serious and the third one's like doing something silly. 3 sheep and 2 sheep were serious and 1 sheep was doing something. And I was like, I noticed this as a pattern. I said, are you aware that every time you paint animals, you paint 3 and you know, I see this pattern. And she was like, oh, that's so weird. No, I didn't even realize I was doing that. And I said, well, what is your birth order? Like, do you have brothers and sisters? She goes, yeah, I have 2 brothers. So there's 3 of them, 2 brothers. And I said, were you the youngest? And she said, yeah, I was the baby. And I was like, you're painting your brothers and you know, and so and she was like, oh my gosh, that's so weird. You know, she didn't even realize she was painting it. So a lot of those things influence our work. You know, the geography that we live in, right? If you've always lived by the ocean, that's going to influence your themes and your work. Okay, then our personal symbols, right? So there's, you know, I think there's a cause inside of each and every one of us where we feel strongly about something. And like I said earlier, I think that usually points to our pain and what we've overcome. So, you know, the best way to think about this, it's a really hard thing to do, but it's a great exercise, is if you say, okay, if I had a TED Talk, I got 1 TED Talk in my life and I could give this TED Talk and it was going to go viral and the whole world was going to see it. It was a viral TED Talk. What would my subject be? What would I want to tell the world in 20 minutes? What would my TED Talk be about? And that's a really, I actually went through this exercise where I actually wrote out a whole TED Talk and I really imagined myself, if I gave a TED Talk, what would it be? And it really was helpful to me. So you can call it, you know, what's your preach? What's your just main cause that really drives you? And I think everybody has one. It's just, it might be, you know, feeling a little foreign at this point or something you haven't thought about in a while. Okay, so this is the last slide of this. And then I would love to hear your thoughts, questions, anything that you have. So I think another sort of final piece to this is everybody has an edge. We all have something that's very unique and special about us that differentiates us from other people. It could be, most of it's our story, right? It's our story, it's our history, it's our experiences. So there's something that makes us different and we stand out for it. It could be all the languages you speak. It could be where you're from, your culture. It could be, you know, something physical about you. You're exceptionally tall, you're exceptionally short. And it could be something that you've seen as a disadvantage or something that you think is not that great about you. But it turns out that could be your edge if you use it that way. You can also think of like, where are you weird? Like, what is so weird about you that other people aren't weird in that way? Or where have you ever felt weird? So I think understanding what our edge is an important piece to this. And I think oftentimes you can use that to your advantage. So let's see. I think I'm going to do a stop share. I can always go back if you guys want to see something again, but I would love to just hear your thoughts, some questions. And if you want to ask me something, totally open. You can ask me anything you like, even if it's not anything I was talking about.
Elli, Pat here. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed so far. Could you tell us a little bit more about your mastery program? I mean, what you've gone through with the aesthetic and taste and process, voice, etc., could apply to artists, of course, just anybody.
True.
But in your mastery program, you must have that self-discovery element. But is there also technique and process and stories about composition and that kind of stuff? Is it all
Yeah.
of them?
So there's 4 parts to the mastery program, and it's a 1-year program that's online, so you can do it anywhere in the world, and you do it at your own pace, and you do it on your own schedule. So there's no set times that you have to show up and be somewhere. And the great thing is because all the content is recorded, and it's like comes to you as like a library, and you go through it sequentially. So you basically start at the first lesson and you go through each lesson, and the lessons build off of each other and into this career. So the point of the mastery program is to turn your passion for art into a profession. So the reason I created it is because when I was first starting out, I really wanted a mentor. I wanted somebody that could show me how I could make a living selling my art. I was kind of making a living, but I was only making, I mean, this was 30 years ago, but I was only making about $350 a week. And I wanted to do better. I wanted to, so I kept asking artists for help, and they didn't want to help me. So I had to kind of slug it out and learn the hard way. And so I thought in 2010, I'm going to open a school because other artists were watching our success and seeing that we were selling a lot of artwork, and they were like, how do you do it? Show me how to do it. And I was like, well, there's a lot to it. I can't just, tell you in an hour how to do it. So that's why I wanted to open the school, so that I could teach people everything I knew in a condensed sort of immersive experience of this 1-year program. So, which is what Sarah's doing. So, so there's 4 parts. The first part is all skill, classical academic skill. So it's learning how to draw and learning how to oil paint. So we start with classical drawing and oil painting at the same time. So you take those two sections at the same time. And so you learn all kinds of different ways to paint with oils, and you learn how to draw anything your eye can see. So you learn proportion and, shading, and we work with charcoal or graphite. So we interchange between the two. And by the end of it, you really know how to draw and you really know how to oil paint. And then the second section is mixed media and voice. So we expose you to all kinds of mixed media. You paint in acrylic, ink, spray paint, you do collage, gold leaf, rollers, you work with all kinds of tools. And we just show you all these mixed media techniques. So you're exposed to, everything, so that you can decide what process you want to work in, because based on your temperament, based on, who you are as a person, you're going to be drawn to certain materials, and other materials you're not going to want to mess around with. So we want everybody to try everything, because you don't know until you try it. And you have to learn how to use them. So that's the mixed media section and the voice. So all the while you're going through these prompts to learn about yourself and different exercises to sort of unravel the mystery of what your voice is and who you are. And then by the end of that, we teach you how to sort of identify all those pieces and put it together in a process that's unique to you. So that's why we call it the mastery program, because you're not becoming a master of everything. You're only mastering your own process. And we guide you through that. So you figure out your process. So it might be, okay, I start with inks, then I kind of work intuitively and I see an image that it wants to be. So then I go find a source. And I work with this source and I pull the image, working with oils. So maybe that's your process, and everybody's process is going to be different. And you just repeat it and build out a portfolio. So the third section is you start your portfolio, which is 25 pieces of a cohesive body of work. And we teach you how to do that in your style, in the themes you want to paint. And then we teach you sort of personal growth / business principles in that section, so that you actually can stay motivated, build habits of success, so you know how to actually be able to apply yourself in a towards your art in a really professional way. So you're not just painting when you feel inspired, or you only paint when you feel like it, but you paint every day as your business. And then the fourth section is you finish out your portfolio of those 25 pieces while you learn marketing. So you learn how to build a personal brand and understand what your brand is. We teach you all about social media, how to make all kinds of different marketing collateral, how to, make a website, everything that you need to market yourself. And then we teach you different marketing strategies of, so it's up to you and your lifestyle, which way you want to go. Some people want to go the more traditional route and have representatives or work in galleries. Other people want to self-represent, use social media. Other people, go a YouTube route or email marketing. So everybody's different. And you kind of choose your path, and you learn all the different marketing things that you need, marketing tools, how to promote yourself, how to launch campaigns, and sort of follow up and follow through with all that, how to run a print program, lots and lots of different things, and then how to sell your artwork. So that means, actively sell it yourself, how to actually, close a sale. And both in writing, because, a lot of times it happens in messaging, and also just in person. And then you finish with a one-year business plan, where you write out basically your business plan for the year. And then all you really have to do is follow it. And if you follow it, then, if you do the work and you follow it, you'll be successful. So a lot of our graduates, tons of our graduates, are selling their artwork all over the place. Most of them, tons of them, have been able to quit their jobs, if they had jobs, and just work full-time as artists. So we have like a ton of success of people that go through the program and have a radically different life now, because they're living out their destiny as an artist. They're living out what they're most passionate about. So that's what I find the most rewarding, because that's my superpower. That's what I love the most, is to see people actually like living out their destiny and what they're really, put on this earth to do.
Thank you. I'm looking at the chat right now, and I see a question. Elli, what do you consider better taste in those examples? And I actually had the same question, and the slide that you showed had kind of a messier space, and then one very orderly, and then you mentioned higher taste, but I'm not sure which one was higher and which one was lower, and I think that's what we're getting to in the chat as well.
Yeah, well,
that one.
Yeah, so in this, I think, like, in my opinion, I don't want to be rude, but I think that, these crates sort of came from it. To me, this looks like a college dorm a little bit. This is like an Amazon couch, and, what's that? I mean, that's not hung well. I don't think you want a vertical painting above a couch. And then this is way oversized for that seat, right? The rug should be here. It shouldn't be in front of that. So to me, and is that, shoes in there? I think they stuffed shoes in there. Shoes and yarn is what it looks like.
Huh.
I don't think like this is very good taste. Not to say this is like amazing taste, but you at least have all kinds of different shapes. You have this gallery wall. It's very eclectic and funky. The color is cohesive. And to me, it looks like higher design. It looks like it was done a lot better. And then here, it's again just kind of having an eye for things. Like, they're both definitely weird, edgy arrangements, but the fact that these are all sort of kind of clustered in a cohesive, pleasing way, and offset by here, and you have a scale differential, you know, the it's tasteful the way that it's kind of simple but unique and different. Whereas this is like, I don't know. I mean, it's a hot mess, right? It just looks like they found random things around their house. They found a throw, a vase, a feather. They put it all in. It has like a small little thing sticking out there, a big one there. It's off center. To me, this doesn't look like high taste. This looks like bad taste.
All right.
Taste is a touchy thing, though. It's a touchy.
Obviously.
I mean, you could see some guy walking down the street in some like crazy suit, and you're like, that's bad taste. I went to Italy not too long ago, and we went, it was in Milan, and we went down the street where all the big designers were, and I looked at Gucci, and it's like, what the heck? That's supposed to be the highest, you know, fashion around. And it was black and orange checkered suits these guys were wearing, you know, and just they looked like clowns. It didn't look like high taste. But we're told that it's high taste. So I think taste is definitely something that is personal to you, but there is, if you constantly expose yourself to new things and high design, you can look at it and go, I don't like that. Like, honestly, I don't like either one of these. I wouldn't put either one of these in my house personally, but I can see looking at it that this is higher design. It's more tasteful than this. And you know, just the fact that there's a color story here and there's no color story here is one clue. So there's recognizing taste, and then there's what is your personal taste. And so I'm always wanting to like educate myself or recognize that I need to grow in that area, because it's always going to bring, I feel like for me, and this is a lot of artists, you have a skill level and a taste level, and they're rarely even. So when you don't like your work, usually your taste has exceeded your skill, and you can imagine something great. You can see it. You can see this art that you know is just, it's so good, but you can't manage to make it because your skills just aren't there yet. And then other times your skills are amazing. You know, you can paint anything and you're just moving along great, but your taste level is not really there. And so if you work on your taste, I think a good place to be is where your taste is a little higher than your skill, so that you're always kind of motivated to improve your skill level.
I have another comment in the chat. Somebody would like to know where they can see your art in person. And, you know, we're here in the DC area. Is there a place in this area where we could see your stuff in person, or do we have to go to Sarasota, which would be okay in the wintertime?
Yeah, anymore, the only gallery besides our gallery, the only gallery I'm in currently is in Sedona, Arizona, and the Big Island in Hawaii. And I'm trying to think if I was ever in a gallery in Washington, D.C. I don't think I have been. I don't think I've ever been in a gallery in Washington, D.C. So we used to be in a ton of galleries, and you know, you have to give them 50% at least. Some in Hawaii, you have to give them 60%. So if you can sell, I could sell less art and not have to, like, you know, work as hard, right? Because we're also building the school. So if you don't work with galleries. So I just kind of work with two because they're friends and I like them. But yeah, I don't really put my art in galleries too much anymore. So to see my work in person, you would you know, probably need to come to Florida.
Twist our arm. We're coming. I had another question, and everybody jump in. I don't want to monopolize it, but you know, I was listening and I got back to that one where you're doing the Pegasus, and then the one before that where you were so upset with your work. And then
Yeah.
you mentioned a little bit later that your work goes through some stages. You start, and then there's a time when you hate it, when it's still evolving, and then maybe
Yeah.
you fall back in love with it again when you're done.
Yeah.
I find that's usually my case. I'm inspired. I start working on it. This isn't working out. I haven't solved all the problems. It sucks. Maybe I should start over again. Then I work on it some more, and I get to a point where I like it again.
Yeah.
Your Pegasus, you didn't mention that. It looked like it was something that just sort of evolved, you know, in a direction, very abstract and less abstract. And then the beautiful Pegasus at the end that had abstract elements, but was fully evolved. This one,
Yeah.
kind of, the one you have now with the goose and the girl, I mean, it just looks to me like the one on the left was early and the one on the right
Yeah.
was evolved.
This what you're looking at right now, that I go through that with every single painting. Every painting I do has a very long, ugly stage. And then, I mean, the Pegasus does too. Like, that's pretty ugly. That's not so great either. I mean, you know, it really doesn't come together until the end for me, because I work in layers. But I think the difference was, it was the first time I was painting my mythology, you know, the mythology of my youth. And so I was tapping into a side of me that I had rejected and I didn't want to deal with. And so I think that's why it got me so upset. And the ugly stage was, you know, too much for me. It was just, it triggered me. I got triggered. Whereas in this one, I don't know why I didn't get triggered. I think because I got over it in that last painting. And I've seen this as we call it the creative cycle, but I've seen this in a lot of people, and it's happened to me many times in my life, where, you know, as you're kind of going through the different stages of creativity, there always comes this point where you sort of hit a wall. And you know, so maybe it starts out in discovery. You know, you're just playing around, you're goofing around, you're just, you know, having some fun, and then you discover something that you like, so you move on with it, and then you get really good at that thing, and it becomes your new inspiration, and you make all this work, you know, from that. And then after some time, you hit a wall and you suddenly don't like that work anymore that you used to love. And what a lot of people do when they face that wall is they it doesn't feel good, so they stop and they go back to something they know, or they try something else, and they just keep trying different things instead of just painting through it. And on the other side of that wall is where that big breakthrough is. And I think something new comes and your work elevates. So, yeah, I think that was basically what was happening.
I've got a raised hand by Chris Luckman. Chris, why don't you share what you want to ask?
Okay, I have some paintings, and you've probably seen them. I don't know that Elli has ever seen them, but they're very complex architectural paintings, and they have a lot of meaning for me, but they're very time consuming. And when I'll paint one and it works, and then I'll try and work on the next one, and I get lost in it, and sort of everything falls apart, and I can't, you know, that's probably a tough question to answer quickly, but do you have any suggestions, any words of wisdom for how to deal with that kind of phase?
Yeah. This may or may not be you, so just see if this kind of hits home or not. But I think a lot of artists, you know, Sarah was kind of talking about it earlier, they paint their hug. And how, you know, if that's what I call it, you're painting your hug. So, you know, so we have Sarah and her husband here. Well, they're opposites, right? Opposites attract. They're not, Twinkies. They're exactly the same. Most of the time opposites attract. John and I are like complete opposites. So a lot of times we are attracted to art. We love looking at art. We want the result of art that isn't the art that we can do really easily. We kind of, it's not really our art. It's the art we admire. And if we paint the art that we admire, it's usually slow, it's difficult. We dread going into the studio. It's this like sort of intense fight of resistance to even get ourselves painting. We don't really enjoy it, but we love the results so much. So we slug it out and, do it. And it's just sort of our cross to bear kind of thing. And that is usually you painting your hug. And so what you want to do is paint in your temperament that fits the art that you naturally create, that is really truly your voice, and your process for painting is probably very opposite. So it sounds like all that detail, super duper slow, very meticulous, lots of details, and you get lost in it. You probably get bored with it, and you get tired of the same old painting. You probably need to paint in a much faster process where there's a little bit of a mystery to it. You don't even know what it's going to look like in the end. And things need to transition quickly for you. You probably need to work on 3, 4, 5 pieces at one time, all in different stages, and stay away from the tiny brushes and, sitting in a chair doing, meticulous sort of boring things, and get out big brushes and be expressive and bold, and have more fun while you're creating.
Elli, can I ask you, this is something that I've kind of got through the secondhand smoke from Sarah, but I thought, it'd be nice if you commented on this. You went through a period of low self-esteem or self-worth. And I think a lot of people, especially starting out, think that they have no talent. Can you address that? And when you get, is everybody in your that begins your program, do they think they have talent or not have talent? Or can you say a couple words about it?
Yeah, well, my position is I think talent is overrated, and I'm somebody without talent. I have no talent. And you might go, what? That's great. Everything I do, I learned it. I mean, if you saw what I painted when I first touched paint, it was terrible, like absolutely terrible. I was the person that could only do stick figures or like bad cartoons or whatever. I had no talent, no ability, no raw ability. But I got a passion for art. I enjoyed it. So I worked at it and I learned, and I think, but I also know, like my husband, for example, he is talented, and he could draw perspective at 2. Like he probably, if he was raised right, would have been a prodigy. He is pretty amazing. But his struggle his whole life is because he was so talented, he didn't have to work for things. And so he struggles with the work. He struggles with stretching himself and doing the uncomfortable things and getting out of his comfort zone, because he's so talented. So I think talent is overrated, and anybody with the desire and the passion can learn anything with art and be exceptional, more exceptional than the talented person. So now if you have both, if you have like a really strong work ethic and you're going to stretch yourself and you're going to, make bad paintings and you're okay with it and you're talented, then I would say that's probably the best place to be, but it's very rare to find. It's hard to find people like that. So Yeah, I think talent is overrated. I don't think you need talent to be a good artist.
But don't
And
you
so-
need it to be a really great artist?
What's a
I
great
mean,
artist?
you know, like people can learn to cook, but you're not going to get a Michelin star unless there's something
Well,
extra.
tell me, who's a great artist?
Richard Schmid.
Okay, who's that?
Okay.
That's funny.
John Singer Sargent, going back in history. So
Okay, John Singer Sargent. I mean, you don't know if he's talented.
he seemed talented to me.
Well, but you probably think I'm talented. I mean,
I do.
yeah,
Yes.
but I'm not. I'm telling you, I'm not.
Okay.
I learned everything. Everything I can do, I learned it, and I was never in the beginning exceptional at it at all. So I don't know, like,
maybe it's just a definition of the word talent, and maybe talent is the result of all these things. Once you've developed your skills and applied
I
your
think there's
discipline
people
and
who
found
do
your
have
voice,
talent,
then
though. You can see people who do have talent. You know, usually at a young age, they have an aptitude, they have they can do it naturally better than anybody else. I mean, there's people that are naturally great at sports. There's people who are naturally great at singing, right? They're musically inclined. And a lot of artists are inclined, to art. But like I think I had an inclination. I loved to color when I was a kid. And my favorite thing was to get a brand new coloring book and a brand new box of crayons. And I would meticulously start at the very beginning of each coloring book. And I made myself finish each page before I could turn the next page. And I wouldn't allow myself to go 3 pages in or 5 pages in. I had to do it in order. And I couldn't wait to finish my coloring book and have every page perfectly colored. Okay. And I was definitely the one that colored in the lines. I wasn't a color outside the lines person. And when my coloring book was all finished, I couldn't wait to show my parents or my parents' friends and make them look at every single page of my coloring book. It was like my portfolio I was presenting. So there was an inclination there, but I wouldn't call that talent. That wasn't talent. That wasn't, it was just, there was a desire there, even when I was little. So I think most artists, that's why we're artists. There's always something there, but I don't know that that's necessarily talent. And I've taught people, my son-in-law, Jake, he was never doing art, never thought of himself as an artist, was never doing art in school. He worked for us as a copywriter, just writing copy for the website and marketing. And he wanted to take the mastery program so that he could write better copy, so he could really understand what it was all about. And after he took the mastery program, he was making all this incredible art and selling it. And so, now he's an artist, but he had never touched paint, he was into sports. He was not an artist before that. Definitely no talent, but he learned and he makes really great art.
So Elli, you've mentioned your daughter and your son-in-law. Is the program geared to young people who are starting out, or is it relevant for everybody?
Yeah, it's for everybody. You can be, the youngest that I know that is taken is about 13 years old, and the oldest that I can think of is 90. So, it's everybody, anybody, we always say anybody who has a passion for art, can succeed at it and take the program. You could be a beginner, or you could be like John and already selling your artwork for 25 years. So it's really quite a unique program that anybody at any level can take it and learn all kinds of things.
So, sorry, I have one more question. It's back to your story. When you first started drawing or painting, you said you were terrible. You couldn't draw anything. What kept you going? Was it just remembering how wonderful it was when your parents liked your coloring book stuff?
Yeah.
And, or was it something
No, it's
else?
actually kind of a cool story. So what happened is I had this best friend in junior high and high school. Her name was Christy, and she was the artist. She was the talented one. And she was known in the school to be the artist. Everybody wanted her drawing pictures for them. You know, she was the artist, and she was my best friend. And so I kind of, in a way, had a little bit of an interest in it. And then another thing that happened is I was 12 and I went with my friend who was buying a piece of art from John, my husband, who was 17 at the time. Okay, I'm 12, he's 17. And we went to go buy, I went with her so she could go buy this piece of art from him. And he was like famous, like he was known in the island in Hawaii where we grew up. And so and he was this punk, he was a skate punk. So we went to the gas station where we were meeting him to buy this painting. And I was like this little 12-year-old, just all intimidated. And I couldn't even believe it when I saw the drawing, how cool it was and how amazing it was. And it was like, oh, John, the artist, you know? So I had my best friend and then this experience with John in art. And then at 15, I'm sitting in art class, you know, the one they make you take. And we had Betty Edwards, actually Betty Edwards, who wrote the book Drawing from the Right Side of the Brain. And my school had this big endowment for the arts. And so they hired her to come in and do a workshop. So she came in to teach how to activate your right brain. And I had no interest in it. I didn't care. I wasn't interested in art. But I did the exercises and it activated my right brain. And I went from stick figures, being able to draw stick figure, or, you know, not being able to draw, and it was stick figures. It was that left brain symbolic drawing to actual observation and being able to engage my right brain and break down the shapes and the highlights and the shadows and the shapes of things through the exercises that she took. So I think she was there like a week. And by the end of the week, I could draw, not great or exceptional, but I could actually draw something three-dimensional. And so I showed my mom this drawing that I did of Marilyn Monroe, and it actually looked like Marilyn Monroe. And I brought it home and she said, "You didn't do that. Christy did that." And I was like, "No, I did it. I learned how I did it." And she said, "No, don't lie to me." And I was a rotten teenager, so, you know, I lied. But in this case, I didn't lie. I wasn't lying. And she's like, "No, Christy did that." I said, "No, I did it." So she had a magazine and she tore out there was this black and white picture of this composer, this kind of man, but it had all these highlights and shadows on it. She tore it out of the her magazine. She said, "Okay, then if you drew that, prove it. Go draw this right now." So I said, "Okay." So I went in my room and I drew it. And like an hour and a half later, I came out and I showed her the drawing, and she couldn't even believe it. She's like, "What in the world? Like, you're talented. Where did this talent come from?" And it's like, it's not talent. I like just learned it. It's turning on your right brain. Anybody can do it. So, so from that point on, I had this like, I don't know, the door opened and my right brain just,
What is going
hey.
on that's working in my
And
new
so,
accent?
so yeah, that's what got it going. But up until that point, I couldn't draw anything. I couldn't paint anything. I had no aptitude at all.
That's great. Thanks.
Well,
Well,
you've
I
been with
really
us, you've been
appreciate
with us for an
you guys
hour and
inviting me. Huh?
you've been with us for an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And thank you for generously, you know, giving us your time. Does anybody else have any final questions before we say
I wanted to know how Chris felt about what I said. What do you think about how that went?
I could relate to parts of it, but not all of it.
Okay.
I appreciate, we don't know each other. You haven't seen the painting, but I've gotten a lot out of this session, and I took a lot of notes. But I have some agreements and disagreements, so I could leave it
Yeah.
at that, but I think that's probably okay.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for asking.
Right. Well, Elli, thank you again for spending this time with us and to share a little bit of your journey. And I'm sure that some of us would be happy to look at more on your website about your mastery program. It sounds intriguing. And
There's a website dedicated just to the mastery program. It's just masteryprogram.com. So that's the best place to go to check it out. We have a YouTube channel, Milan Art. So we have a lot of content on there. Everything from lessons to, there's just a lot on there. We have a reality show that you could watch. That is a bunch of artists in Greece competing and doing all kinds of different challenges. So that's pretty entertaining. That's on YouTube. It's called The Outstanding Artist. And yeah, so there's a lot of content out there that's completely free that you can go and check out and, get to know us a little better.
thank you again. And
Yeah, well,
members,
thank
thank you
you.
all for zooming in. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and turn the recording off.